Wagwan, Mr. Maps.
Yo, what it do, what it is.
What it is, big man, are you alive and kicking?
I'm alive, man. I'm alive. I forgot. There's a thing that Charlemagne says something along the lines of like I'm something black, blessed, and highly favored. That's his line. But that's how I'm feeling. That's how I'm feeling. I'm feeling good. Feeling good. Otherwise,
Tick, tick.
you alright?
You know me. Shrill as usual.
Okay. Let's get it out of the way quickly. Guys, welcome back. It is another episode of 6 Foot Weights. Your favorite hour with your favorite cheese boys. My name is Tabo.
And my name is Senna.
And we're here for a good time, not a long time. So much for us to get into, Mr. Moy. It is what it is. We have to do what the people them expect from us. Wow. I don't even know where to start. So one thing that I wanted us to touch on was Ivy Park. So again, looks like from all reports, Adidas is set to lose $200 million on Ivy Park product this year. And this individual called Rex Woodbury on Twitter did a thread. Shout out to IP Thursdays. We don't know what happened there, but so he did a thread similar to IP Thursdays and broke down what went wrong in terms of Ivy Park specifically and celebrity brands. In terms of what the streets were saying, just general people off the thread, they were just saying, the problem with Ivy Park is that it's not casual wear, right? You're not just gonna wear it out. It's not practical, right? So why buy it? And also the price point. So it didn't make any sense. It's not quite, Dior, right? Levels, but then also it's not Adidas levels at the same time in terms of price point. So like it's this random midway point. So he touched on some interesting things. He says that Ivy Park sales fell off 50% in 2022, and Adidas is projected to lose 250 million. And the brand only brought in $40 million. Wow. Beyonce has an aspirational, aloof persona that is at odds with the Ivy Park athlete leisure style, right? So what he's essentially saying in his thread was, Beyonce is chic, right? Beyonce is top of the range, and it doesn't really work with what Adidas is selling, right? So it's not the synergies. Like if you do, business, they talk a lot about corporate synergies. If Supersport is going to buy an entity, for example, they need to be synergies between Supersport and said entity, right? This is why you see mergers happen, right? So XXX Studio, like Disney bought Fox, right? But then it depends. Like if it's a merger, then there have to be synergies. But if it's a takeover, then it's like you don't really need the synergies because you're stripping it for parts, right? And you're gonna take what you need, throw away the rest. So in this case, right, there needed to be synergies between Adidas and between Beyonce, and they just went there. So obviously, her biggest competitor in a very, very different market has been Rihanna, right? Rihanna has been obviously chastised for leaving the music industry and just pushing Fenty, but Fenty has been very, very profitable for Rihanna.
And are you trying to do another Beyonce versus Rihanna thing, Mr. Maps?
Not even. I just found it to be very interesting that Rihanna has rebranded herself as a fantastic businesswoman. I think she's a billionaire now, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, she crossed it like last year or something.
Yes, exactly. And I think Beyonce is as well. I don't know if Beyonce is a billionaire, but maybe. But I think, again, Beyonce is not a billionaire. If she is a billionaire, it's definitely not because of Ivy Park, right? Ivy Park seems to be a flop. So it was one of those things where he broke down certain things, like, again, moving beyond the fact that you just have a celebrity attached to it. You need to have someone who actually embodies the brand. So like Kanye West and Yeezys are Kanye, right? You buy Yeezys because it's Kanye West, right? And he's, pushing it as shoes that he's designed, he's put his effort into, and ABCD, right? So it works at the end of the day. Even though they're expensive, there's still a market of expensive sneakers like Jordans, right? So they're usually Yeezys are the same price as I would know, as I'm currently recovering. But Yeezys are the same price as Jordans. Right? A really nice pair of Jordans, typically you'll find them at the same price point as Yeezys,
Mm-hmm.
right? So as a sneakerhead, you're not really going to be like, oh my god, like this is expensive, da da da. It's going to be like, okay, cool, this is a premium sneaker, and it's at premium sneaker prices. Whereas I feel
Mm-hmm.
like with Ivy Park, it kind of just stands out. Well, I don't know what else Adidas releases at that price point that competes in a certain market where the girls of this world, or even guys, I think this guy clothes as well for Ivy Park, that will
Mm-hmm.
go out and be like, oh, I need that. You know what I mean? So like, what's the market that Ivy Park is in? I personally don't understand. Again, if you're listening to this and you know what market they're in,
Yeah.
and you can give us references, I'd absolutely love it. So it's essentially, he brought up other really good examples apart from Fenty, which is Skims. I think that's Kim Kardashian's brand. I think Ogama making your ass look
Mm-hmm.
bigger, like I'm leggings on Alana, and again, Kim K, making things look bigger than they are. Typical, like really, yeah, I can see it, right? And again,
Mm-hmm.
there is a market for these products, right? These type of leggings and whatever else would be in Skim. So I'm seeing a stark difference in terms of the people that he's mentioning that are doing it well,
Yeah.
right? And versus how Beyonce did it. So that's where, for me, I wanted to get your thoughts because I just think maybe it's just a case of Beyonce is not the right person to be pushing, to have a partnership with Adidas because again, it's not affordable. It's not Beyonce is not a. I don't see videos of Beyonce in the gym, right? She's
Yeah,
and I'm
that's
sure she goes to the gym, but like that's not her. That's not what she puts out there. Every time I
yeah.
see a picture of Beyonce, it's a super edited, super magaziney, kind of vibe, right? Like
Mm.
again, top range, which fine, that's fair, right? But I can understand why Fenty, not Fenty, why Ivy is not doing well because she doesn't even seem like she pushes it other than the launch day type of thing. But what do you think?
I think I agree with you. To draw sort of an example of a brand, right? So I like Project Rock, Under Armour, right? So I think that the point you make about Uwiti, you don't see the athleisure part as part of Beyonce's brand, right? Which kind of makes it
Yeah,
hard to then sell that thing. I'll contrast it with I name the Rock specific because that's a brand that I like and I get sometimes for gym.
yeah,
The Rock wears, the Under Armour kit with the Brahma ball. Literally, when he's at the gym, even when he appears on WWE and makes like guest appearances, or when he goes wherever, like he'll be wearing it, like it's present. It's part of his
yeah,
persona, personality, and that's kind of contributes to the marketing and it speaks to that kind of synergy you're talking about, right? There's a proper synergy between Under Armour and The Rock and the brand, right? It
yeah.
comes out. You can see which this guy is a gym guy. He's releasing sort of they call it motivational athletic wear or motivational gym wear
It's
because
corny, but it makes sense, right?
yeah, it makes sense, right? Half the t-shirts will say hardest worker in the room.
Yeah.
The other one will say push right through. Uh, you'll have like a whole bunch of like different. The other ones just have like the bull logo and whatever, right? But you can see it, right? It's cool,
Yeah.
and there's the synergy. It works, right? The moment I see that, I think The Rock.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I see and I had a story similar to yours, I guess. You said, I think you mentioned that your then girlfriend, now wife, wanted to buy. She wanted to buy the Ivy Park, right? My sister at some point also wanted it, right? So what happened is she said, "Hey, look, Ivy Park is dropping. Can you like get it for me?" So I went to Adidas at the mall, and there was a queue, right? A queue of people trying to get this thing. And then I think it was meant to be limited edition, and
Yeah.
then the next batch was going to come, but I don't know what happened, but it didn't sell out. Despite the queue on the actual day, on
Oh
subsequent
wow.
days, you could still find the stuff. And the reason, as you mentioned, right, it was priced out. The target market, and I guess when you're releasing like gym clothes, whatever, you're looking for upper class people that can afford Ivy Park and will go to gym, but would also
Yeah.
still want it such that it's, I don't know how to put it, but exclusive enough, but more than anything, they can relate to it with you in that way. I'm not even sure if I'm making sense.
Yeah, the target market was really, really off because, again, if you think about, fitness, let's just focus on women, right? Because the majority of her listeners would be women, right? Like in terms of listening to the music. And her appeal, we noted when we were talking about the whole Rihanna versus Beyonce thing, right? We talked about how there was a conscious movement to appeal to the really feminine side of things, right? By Beyonce in terms of her music, and it worked out very, very wonderfully in terms of the music and growing Beyonce as a brand. But then that same market that you're appealing to as a singer, is it the same market that's going to go out and buy a pair of joggers, right?
Probably
Or
not.
whatever else is out there. And again, people say, I can't wait. Like, where am I going? Where I'm going to? Like, if you look up on the on Google, Bala Ivy Park, and see some of the things that pop up, bro. It's like, if you're going to, wherever, even to dinner with your wife, does that
Yeah.
make sense
Do you know what?
for
I'm just
her
looking
to
at some
wear?
of the I'm looking at some of the pictures now. You can't wear some of these things to the gym. I think if a hand rocked up to the gym wearing I think what I'm looking at now is a beige what's they called the beanie hat? Not a beanie hat, not a hat. Not the beanie, but the bucket
What, the
hat.
detective Kepes?
The bucket hat.
Oh, okay, the
So it's a
bucket. Okay,
bucket
okay, okay.
hat with a mini skirt and a puffer jacket. You can't wear that to the gym, right? But at the same time, I don't think you can wear that on a night out.
And
So you're gonna
you know what
you
else? Someone said they said it could also a lot of these things only look good on Beyonce, which is a pretty
that could
fair
be
thing to
true.
say now.
But at the same time, I'm looking at this one tracksuit, right? I can
Yeah.
see someone wearing this. If you're a rich housewife, you wear this at the mall when you're going to pick up the kids, or or something. Like there's a picture I'm looking at now. It's got leather pants and
So I saw the first release of the item, which is reddish and orange on top, with those joggers and top and
okay, I
whatever.
can see that in the
That
picture. Yeah.
was actual sportswear. So that one I can see people wearing that in the gym every day. But then now there's another item in the same color where swimming costume, but it's got long sleeves. Like it's like Hans like wearing that now. Like they wear a pair of jeans and then an item which is like a swimming costume, which is I'm like
Yeah.
that's wow, that's a lot.
Who's
But
going to wear that
again,
on a
yeah,
random day out,
it,
right?
and again, my thing was that it was so easily identifiable. So like you might wear it once, and like you don't want to be out at brunch every single because we just know, you know what I mean? Like it's you look at it and we know. Whereas it's a new product, but I know like your Michael Kors, your Louis V's, your Gucci's. There's that bag where they've got the logo all over, and if you see that every day, I feel like they've just been here for so long. It's easy for me to tune it out. So if someone shows up with a Louis bag, I don't really care if I've seen that Louis bag a million times,
But
right?
that's a
Because it's
bag.
just yeah, okay, maybe yeah. So maybe yeah, because I'm doing a bag versus an item of clothing. But yeah, it's just looking at it. It's not as appealing, bro. It's if anything, it almost looks like Beyonce is limiting her creative appeal with Ivy Park because it has to be because the problem is that the financial backer is who is Adidas.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Whereas I think if you compare with Kanye, it worked well because again, there is that market already for premium sneakers, and Adidas didn't go and say these Yeezys cost more than if it's $300. Usually, I think the most I've seen for like a premium shoe that's readily available all over the world is 300 USD. That's
Yeah.
typically what you'll find, and then maybe up to 500 USD as well for like if you're now looking at special editions, you're looking at $500, and then like real special editions, it can move into like the $1,000 type thing. But again, you're now outpricing probably 80% of people in the world. Most people, I think the 80% who are sneakerheads will probably buy anywhere between $100 to $300
Yeah.
shoes. And typically you'll
Yeah.
find Yeezys somewhere there, if not into maximum like into the $500 range, generally speaking. And that's like, okay, fine. You can do that, right? But this, I don't know, bro. Like it's
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm looking through some of the stuff. I'm like, where do you wear these things to? I've come up with three scenarios, right? So there's the gym, there's dinner date, there's just chilling at home. You're not gonna spend $500 on a pair of pants to just sit at home. You have to go out and people
Yeah.
see. So the only sort of scenario where I can envisage wearing a lot of these clothes is probably just on a day when you're running errands or going to chill at an informal type setting, right? For a
Yeah.
braai, where you need to look casual, but at the same time you want people to know, Witty, I'm casual, but I've got a class, I've got this of some sort. I still look good
And you know,
enough.
some of these things, the problem is what I'm seeing good thing, it's a whole outfit. I like personally, this is just me. I
Mm,
like clothes where I can mix and match, right?
mm,
When I buy, like, or when it's just looking like it just belongs to this thing, and you don't really have other clothes that would
that
work
will
with
work
that
with it.
particular item. And I don't know, hey, bro, I'm actually looking at the Adidas Ivy Park page, bro. It's just I'm sorry, it's just not working for me.
But
It's
anyways,
how
I guess that's the tricky part. Maybe if she sort of started her own brand, again, Noel's brand of some sort, not in
I mean, she did
collaboration with
have. I
Adidas.
think like a while ago, didn't she have the jeans, the derriere or apple? No, not apple bottom. Was it apple bottom
I have no
jeans? I
idea.
don't know. But there was something about because again, she was heavily marketing her butt back then, right? So it worked with in terms of oh look at these jeans, does my ass pop like Beyonce? There was a lot of synergies there when Beyonce was still up and coming. You know what I mean? So like
Mm,
that made complete sense. If I don't know if she does if she gets into perfume, I don't know. Like, but I feel like that could work. Beyonce perfume could really, really work. Even a catalog where it's just this is just for the super, super rich. Like, screw the fans. This is for moneyed up niggas. I think that would work as well. But I don't know what Beyonce could do that would appeal to maybe makeup line as well. But I feel like that's because Rihanna sort of cornered that as a celebrity. I don't know if she could penetrate, but
maybe
makeup I
she
think
could.
would definitely work. It would
Maybe she
definitely work.
could. Maybe she could. But it's probably back to the drawing board for all parties, especially Adidas, because I don't think Beyonce actually loses money from this deal. I think Adidas will
Yeah, I know,
pay
no. I think they
you
paid her. Yeah, they
to
paid her a
be in
lump sum.
association, and then they
Yeah,
will hope to recoup whatever they paid you from
yeah,
sales and whatever expenses they incur for distribution,
yeah.
all of it. So yeah, I guess maybe from a financial standpoint, she'll probably still be okay. I'm not sure if you ever saw outside of and maybe people who follow Beyonce religiously would be aware of this. Nat, um, in a scenario where you know how what I mentioned earlier about The Rock, right? When he appears at the WWE, when he appears for interviews, he's wearing his Project Rock stuff. He's
Yeah,
basically pushing the brand.
yeah.
Do you think on a random photo taken of Beyonce, outside of these photo shoots, which are really dope, they're probably like in studio, you would actually see her at a random interview, at a random appearance wearing Ivy Park?
That's the thing. I don't see it, but also I can't say that with surety because I really don't follow Beyonce like that. So maybe fans will tell us and say, hey, this is actually what's going on." But like, and my thing is when it comes to brands and stuff like that. Even though I don't follow Rihanna like that as well, she was synonymous with Fenty. Like you don't say Fenty without Rihanna, right? And she's pushing it. At least it seemed like she was pushing it.
Yeah.
We know Yeezy was definitely pushing Yeezys.
Yeah, he was wearing
Like
Yeezys
they,
everywhere.
yeah, it's
He'd
authentic.
appear
I think the
on
word the
on
word I'm looking for is authentic. Like there seems to be an authentic connection between Yeezy and Kanye, Fenty and Rihanna, Skims and Kim. that type of thing where you believe with one, you rock them. That's number one. And two, you
Mm.
believe in that. And
Like we
you
believe
know,
that you wear this every day. You know,
yeah,
we think
consumers are
this
smart.
is.
Consumers are smart. It's like, bro, do you actually wear this shit or not? Right? Do you rock like this or not? Do you love Ivy Park like that or not? Like people can I think there's a lack of authenticity when it comes to Beyonce and that particular brand. It just doesn't see. It's like one foresee, type of the way her agent came like, bruh, like there's a payday, there's $100 million payday, just do the things, and she's like, okay, fine, right, if I must. Like that's kind of what the energy is from my vantage point. But again, I'm not really within like that, so
Mm.
who knows? But anyway,
Right.
Mr. Moy, we need to move. We need to move swiftly along. But guys, add us and let us know what you think. How would you fix the Ivy Park brand, or do you think it's perfect? Do you think sales are through the roof, and isn't Zimnand? Right. One thing that was interesting that we were going to touch on, I think they're linked together, is the UK immigration bill, or rather, I feel like we were focusing really on the language of that immigration bill,
Mm.
and what subsequently happened in the football world with Gary Lineker versus BBC. So, what do you want to tackle first?
I think maybe from we can start from the actual language of the bill and the purpose of it and all of that.
Okay.
Um, I guess the general sort of synopsis is obviously the Conservative Party is currently the one in power in the UK at the moment, right? They have been, I think, for the last 13 years, if I'm not mistaken.
3-0 or
Uh,
1-3.
1-3, 1-3.
Okay.
I think the last Labour Prime Minister would have been, who was after Blair? Blair was Labour, then was it Gordon Brown?
I have no clue, bro.
I think it was Gordon Brown. I'm not sure. But anyways, they've been in power, and you know how conservatives are always, oh, stop, tighten the borders, blah blah blah, stop immigration. And you know how I feel. I think immigration is one of the most inevitable things in life, right? It's been
Yeah.
there since the beginning of time. Whatever you try to do to clamp down on it, people always find a way
Yeah.
to make it to another place in search of a better life. That is just human nature. We see it in animals as well. That's just how it is. Um, so, anyways, there's a big push at the moment from the Conservative Party to stop the boats. That's their whole campaign, right? Stopping the boats means preventing the entry of people into the UK via small boats, right? So I think what happens is a lot of refugees and people seeking a better life get on boats from I don't know where, but they have these, is it gangs or groups who help them cross the channel into the UK, and then obviously they seek asylum. This is all in line with like refugee laws, right, and human rights laws, right?
Yeah.
When people make it to your land in search of a better life, fleeing conflict or whatever, you have an obligation to process them and give them shelter and, long story short, give them asylum and just let them live there and make a better life for themselves.
Yeah.
The condition, obviously, being a refugee is you're not allowed to go back to your home country. Otherwise, the terms of your asylum fall away. That's just the case everywhere.
Yeah.
So there's been, I don't think there's been an increase, but obviously with instability worldwide, food shortages, environmental issues, war torn
Also, Ukraine.
countries. Also, Ukraine. Ukraine was
Yeah.
another one, but they've treated Ukraine very differently to how they're
Yeah.
treating these small boats. These are people from like Iran, from Somalia, from different sort of poorer nations. Ukraine is like open arms, come through. Everyone else coming through the boats is like, no, senbanengi. It costs too much to house you, blah blah blah, etc. Right? So the new immigration bill, and I think what they tried last year was a different approach. Last year, remember, they tried to take people who would arrive in the UK and then ship them to Rwanda so that they can live there. There was a partnership they had with the Rwandan government. So I think that's still in the courts. I don't know how it'll work out. But this year they've said, no, look, what we'll do is if you get here, You won't be allowed asylum. Amongst other things, I think you won't have access to the UK modern slavery protection laws, which basically protect people from using refugees and using them as modern day slaves and not paying them and all that ish, right?
Yeah.
And long story short, Suella Braverman, who's the current sort of Home Office minister, is the one who's saying, look, this is the rule. We're pushing this through. Once this bill is enacted, it'll become law, and then we will stop the boats. Uh, and that's the background of the story, right? So the moment they released that statement, Gary Lineker, who works for the BBC as a football pundit, then goes and says, this language is not too dissimilar from 1930s Germany under the Nazi government, and we should, as a people, rebuke it. He supports refugees, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, the BBC then took him off air
Yeah.
for that weekend, right? He was meant to be presenting Match of the Day and Premier League fixtures,
Yeah.
and they took him off air. What then happened is a lot of his other colleagues, Alan Shearer, Ian Wright, and all these other guys are also like, actually, fuck y'all. It's his freedom of speech. He's entitled to say whatever he wants to say.
Yeah.
We're also in solidarity not doing Match of the Day.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack there, Mr. Maps. Uh, but in essence, he's now back on air. Him and the BBC have reached a resolution. They said they'll discuss his social media guidelines because this was on Twitter. He obviously believes that, look, I'm a freelancer. It's my own personal Twitter. I didn't say this on the BBC. And besides, there's nothing I said that's controversial or partisan. I literally just want best for the vulnerable people in our society. Your thoughts on all that, Mr. Maps? I know it's a lot to digest, from the actual law itself right through to Lineker's suspension.
I think in terms of what the government put out there, I found it very, very ironic that they have at some point he was an immigrant, if not him, his parents, right? Or his parents' parents, the Indian dude.
Rishi Sunak.
Yeah. Like, oh, I guess maybe he might be. Is he Indian or like Pakistani or something like that? But one of those
Let me have a
South
look, but I
Asian
think he
countries.
is, yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, I just feel like it's ironic that you put out a statement like this and this is what you're putting your face on.
Do you know what's actually more hilarious? The current Home Office Minister, Suella Braverman, she is, if I'm not mistaken, of Indian descent, and her parents, I think, were born in Uganda.
Oh, wow. That is, yeah, that is hilarious. But like, yeah, that's where for me, it's it reminds me of this conversation. Remember the conversation we're having about when were we talking about like the king's peace and what were we talking about? The shooting. Yes, yes. Remember the shooting in the U.S. where it was the black officers.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. This type of thing where it's like keeping the king's peace. It feels like that same energy where it's like you'd think someone who is an immigrant or is a child of immigrants would understand the plight and what goes on around the world and would
Yeah.
never ever be like, no, y'all are not putting in my face, on this, or I'm not gonna, link up with a
Yeah.
party whose values are this, right?
Side
But
note,
then,
just ask you a quick. Do you think it's intentional from the Conservative Party? Because Rishi Sunak, I just read now, his grandparents, I think, were from Pakistan. And then Suella Braverman, her parents were of Indian origin. They immigrated from Mauritius and Kenya. And before her, I think it was Priti Patel. She's also, of Ugandan and Indian descent, right? So
yeah.
these are all people with a history of immigration. Do you think it's intentional for the Conservative Party to put people of color with the history of immigration at the front of probably one of the harshest immigration laws the UK
I think it's
particularly
incredibly
has
smart on their part
seen?
as a party. Incredibly smart, right? Because why if you're to put a locuzin, a law outlawing let's say abortion as an example. If you peddle a woman out there to go and announce that, that's great because it's like, hey, it's a woman saying it, right? And you're hoping that there's going to be less blowback, right? because now it's not the big bag men that are doing this thing, even though technically they still are. But I think it's smart for them as a conservative party. If I'm there, I'm be like, hey, bruh, who's not white? Who's not white? Let's get them, to jabo. Right, come. You need to come and announce this thing, and it's to me. I think as that type of individual, I'm like, bro, what are you doing? It literally makes no sense to me. So that's where I kind of raised my eyebrow, because at first I saw the headline, right, about the immigration law, and I'm thinking, okay, it's actually going to be before I actually read, I assumed it was the opposite. I think you quoted the law on Twitter, and then you quoted his tweet, right, putting it out, and then I'm like, I'm reading what Senna says, but I'm like, no, like an immigrant wouldn't say that, like, you know what I mean? So so I'm like, okay, fine. I guess now I need to read what's actually going on, because what Senna is saying doesn't really make sense with what I think this should be, right, coming from this man of Pakistani origin. So I read it and I'm just like, this is really, really insane, right? Because there's so many, like, and again, the other layer to this is where it's offensive. Where I find it offensive is, as the UK, how dare you? Because we literally learn history of what you guys did all over the world, especially Africa and India, right? And the rest of the Caribbean and wherever else, America, they literally tried to colonize the whole world, right? And then
Yes.
now, illegally, y'all just showed up. Y'all just showed up and started, messing things up all over the world. And then now, you want to have a law that says, no, but listen, we're going to stop the boat. No, 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 no. This is you paying for the sins of the past. Because it's like, hey, if you don't come and
Yeah.
pull up on us uninvited,
Yes.
guess what? We're pulling up on you uninvited. Like, it's the same energy, right?
And just
You
to
can't,
add, and literally to
destabilize
add,
countries.
to add to your point, and I think you're absolutely right. So what she is saying, Suella Braverman, is that why don't these people stop in other countries? Why do they skip? I think they skip through France, and he says they skip through a whole bunch of other. Why do they skip all these other destinations and then come to the UK? Right? And it speaks to the point that you were making just now. The reason why people go straight to the UK is because there's a familiarity about it, right? If I am fleeing an English colony,
Yeah.
why would I stop in France where
Yeah.
I would
I
need
don't
to
speak
learn a new
French.
language? I don't know anyone there. I
Yeah.
don't know anyone in Germany. Why would I? Or maybe I could hit up Rob and say, hey, Dasrika, I'm here. Listen, what's up? I have to start Germany from scratch. But people literally go to the UK because there's some link there, there's some tie there. There is the language issue is probably the biggest one, right? Because I'll get there, I don't need to learn anything else, I can fit in
Yeah.
seamlessly. Even the
Yeah.
success of the Premier League is down to the fact that so many countries that were, you know, English colonies tune in and they can relate to the commentary, the language,
Yes.
the
Exactly.
culture of it. That's how it is. It's the consequences of that whole, hey, we're part of the British Empire. That's why
The
people,
Commonwealth.
yeah, we're part of the common. That's why people nowadays are like, actually, I don't need to stop in France. I don't need to stop in Romania or wherever. I can
Yeah.
just go straight to where I know. And
I
but
need to go to
it's not. And,
Racism Central. That's where I want to
yeah,
be. I need to be there, a center. And like, you're saying, it's, you can't be shocked. You can't do that and be like, why is this going on? Right? You have to accept on your side. And that's why I don't understand. Even throwing all of those other countries, or France, or Germany, all the America, because Canada, they still all pretty much have similar laws when it comes to, or they make it incredibly difficult to even go on, vacation in those countries if you're coming from, Africa, certain parts of Asia, stuff like that. They try to raise the barriers to entry, and I'm like, that no one talks about that, or at least because obviously they're pretty much controlling global media, they won't let people talk about that. But how dare you put people in that position where it's like, the reason we want to come to France, the reason we want to go to Spain or wherever, is because y'all was here, right? If you're from
yeah,
Angola, and Angola is what, the Portuguese, and then
Portuguese.
Angolans
Yeah,
are trying to go all the way to Portugal. You can't be like, hey, what's going on? Well, again, we're linked right? If I'm on Mozambique, I'm also trying to pull up to Portugal. And all of these, the reason France has a decent football team, national team, is because all the francophone countries in Africa are busy shipping off all of their best talent to France because those parents are like, listen, I want to make a better life for myself in France, right? How come who was one, whoever that lady is, I can't remember her name. Why isn't she, looking at if I'm after she makes that statement, I'm like, yeah, but it's not like our Pogba and them they didn't come to the UK, right? Where did they stop? They stopped in France. It's basic maths, like you said. It comes from colonialism. It's basic maths. So had colonialism never happened, I'm pretty sure no one is pining and jumping over themselves to go to the UK or wherever else because again, that level of familiarity is non-existent. It's non-existent. So I don't know. So I in terms of the Gary Lineker side, like you said on Twitter, massive own goal by the BBC, because that was really really stupid on their part because they're trying to. So what they were hiding behind was like no. The contract that he signed and a lot of our employees have signed is to be impartial politically. And then initially when he was suspended, I assumed he had said it like during like a Champions League game or something like that when that came out, right? Like in the post game analysis, right? I assumed he had said it on the air. So I was like, okay, it kind of makes sense if you say it on air. It's I don't support it, but okay, I can understand how you can get suspended for that, right? But he put it out on Twitter, on his social media, right? That's where I was like, that's ridiculous. And at that point, you if you're the BBC, because he's so big, right? I didn't know how big Gary Lineker was. Actually, I didn't know too much about. I know from a sports point of view, but I didn't know that. First of all, man's is moneyed up. He doesn't need the BBC. He's doing this because he's into their passion. I know this makes sense. And then Simon Jordan was talking about he gets tax breaks or whatever. That's again unnecessary information. But like all this stuff, and I was like, whoa, like Ian Wright and all those people like just being like, nah, fuck it, we're not coming to work. It put pressure on the BBC to then, well, number one, sort your policy out, and number two, you look like fools in public because obviously there's political pressures. And I didn't even have to find the information. I already knew Uti. I'm pretty sure other people have made political statements that are pro-conservative that they didn't even, worry about. The problem is it was anti-conservative, right? And then they're like, I, you can't say this, and they look like you to be. And yeah, I don't know. I think it is wild. But I feel like social media use, Lineker should be free to say what he wants to say. And I think, again, people who tune into certain news channels respect you more if you have pundits on there where they show their colors, right? If it's CNN, and CNN is usually pro-liberal, but you're hiring someone who is Republican and he's putting out his Republican agenda, I respect CNN in terms of the news that they're giving me because I feel like, okay, they're trying to give me both sides. But then the moment someone says something Republican on CNN, hey, that guy is suspended, then what that tells me is CNN is curating my content to be incredibly pro-liberal. And if I'm liberal, great, right? But then if I'm not, if I'm just in the middle, then I don't really want my news to come from CNN, right?
Yes.
And that's where I think the BBC caught themselves at the end of the day. So I think it was a massive, massive, massive own goal. But I think they've sorted it out now. He should be back for this weekend. So if I lived in the UK, I'd definitely be tuning into to Match of the Day to see the reaction. But I don't think he'll say anything. I think they'll kind of move on like nothing happened. Most for the sake of professionalism. But yeah, it was an incredible couple of days for Mr. Lineker.
He'll toe the party line, I think. Before we move on to the next thing, what do you think will happen? Do you think with the new immigration laws? Do you think they'll pass? Because apparently the general consensus is that they go against many human rights, agreed human rights guidelines that each country must have in place in terms of the UN, I think. You just double check that. You think they'll manage to get it through, or do you think?
I think it's just a game of numbers, right? So if they've got enough influence politically, then yeah, they will get it through. I just don't know what the numbers look like. because there's certain bills like this. I know in the US it'd be very difficult to pass because it's almost always, even there's a majority of either conservative or liberal, it's even still with the majority, certain bills are just they just get jammed up.
Yeah.
And they just, the political heads argue about it day in, day out, and it's just, tiresome.
You need
So I
like
don't know
two
what
thirds
what's
majority or something.
yeah. So it's kind of like, why even bother? Because you're never gonna get that, right? But yeah, I don't know what the UK government system is like. So I honestly don't know if it would go through. But if it does, if it were to go through, I don't know. I think the country would need to take a serious look in the mirror, and it's really, really like, what kind of message are you sending as a country? Like, I understand there is an immigration issue, but again, who started
Yep.
it? Who were the OG illegal immigrants? Who started it? Like, that would be my first question to them. And because they would have to admit, like, it's us, then Chief, shut up then. Shut up and move on. And just try to come up with different policies, right? Whether it is that partnership with Rwanda or Watintini or this, whatever it is. But that's just wild, bro. You move to the UK on asylum, but you're right. To say Rwanda. Say Rwanda. That's actually, man, I love Rwanda. Rwanda is a beautiful country. But yeah, that would be quite interesting in terms of a partnership. But yeah, it's I don't know. I think it just screams the wrong thing. And again, we all know with a lot of these governments and these countries, especially Western countries, are full of shit. This would just be kind of, I think, the nail in the coffin to confirm, yeah, no,
Yeah.
we're actually full of shit.
I find it so weird how they have people of color as the leading voices. People of color who are historically, immigrants as the leading voices into anti-immigration legislation. It is,
I mean,
yeah,
I wondered. I was like, we remember
it's
when he was
incredible.
announced as prime minister, and we're like, oh wow, right? And then it's like, man, they were one step ahead. They knew this is all, like, it makes sense now. It makes sense.
At an Indian man out there saying "stop the boats" and I'm like, oh, okay. Sorry, it's
Imagine,
Pakistani.
imagine, like, it's just wow, bro. That's a lot. That really is a lot. But guys, in the UK, let us know. Let us know how you feel. At us, let us know. How Gwambanja in the UK, because I wanted to come and visit, but kayanga order. So, let me just stay here in the desert. There's nothing going on over there besides my beloved Chelsea. So anyway, let's move on. This is interesting. What's the Lotto scam?
So I need to make sure I kind of get these facts right because I think they can be a bit weird. So in South Africa, there's a National Lotteries Commission, right? And I'm not sure, but I think they run the national lottery. And you know how Lotto works. People go, they put money into the thing, and you hope that you're going to win jackpot or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So what's been happening is within the National Lotteries Commission, right? They have a wing that is meant to, like any big organization that makes a shit ton of money, they have a wing that's meant to fund initiatives or, whether it's cultural initiatives or it's charity organizations, whatever it is, they are meant to do that, right? So what's apparently been happening over the last couple of years is there's been a scam in these initiatives where a group of celebrities in South Africa have been receiving money which was meant to be allocated for charities. So with Tabo, let's say you're also one of these people. You say, "I know, guys, I run an orphanage in Bulawayo. I need 20 million rand as a donation." The National Lotteries Commission siphons the money to you, and then when you go and live your best life. Tologuti, the charity, actually doesn't exist. Tabo made the whole thing up.
Wait,
Long story
what?
short. Yeah, so a lot of these guys were taking the money, which was meant to go towards charities and companies that they apparently lead or that they register, and then they just chow the sheets, right? You may have seen this name trending in South African Twitter a few weeks back, but do you know Terry Peto?
No, I didn't see that.
So Terry Peto used to act. If you remember the movie Tsotsi, she used to act as the girl in Tsotsi. She was one of the lead actors.
Okay.
She's one of the famous, like most famous actors in South Africa. And in the movie Tsotsi, the guy himself, Tsotsi, is also implicated in this. So you're right. It's crazy. But then a surprise name came up a few weeks back. You know Arthur Mafukate,
Yes.
Mnike,
The
Kwaito
performer.
singer Mnike.
Yeah.
Yeah, so apparently he's also within the mix. And then upon deeper reading, what actually killed me was what Terry Peto had taken the money under the guise of, right?
Okay.
So her charity was meant to fund um, a circumcision school
How?
somewhere. Somewhere in South Africa, she was meant to take this money and fund a circumcision school because, as you know, there's a crisis in South Africa where lots of young men go up to the mountain. They don't
Yeah.
have access to good healthcare and practices. And then what happens is that a lot of them die, they don't come back. So she was meant to take this money, go to the circumcision schools and whatever, and then help the boys. It turns out that she decided to chow the sheets. And now all their
Is this
properties
confirmed or
are
this
on.
is alleged?
No, it's alleged. It's alleged.
Okay.
Obviously, she denies it.
Okay.
But one of her houses has been auctioned off
Oh.
because, yeah, because the special investigative unit tracked the money and it came out that the monies that were funded through the National Lotteries Commission was eventually used to buy
Build the
the
house.
house. Yes.
Yo. It's cack.
Skaka Sendab. And on top of that, it's funny how these people acted in Swati. Like the
That's yeah. No, that is
irony.
ironic. That is ironic.
So there's a
Wow.
meme of Arthur. Actually, there's a. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but Arthur crying. There's a meme of him crying that is now made its way into.
So is that why he was crying?
Yes, because
Because I remember
now.
Mac G mentioned something about, hey, Arthur must come and tell us the real story, but I didn't catch what they were actually talking about.
So the moment the SIU said we're investigating Arthur Mafugate,
Yeah.
he then went on some podcast with some guy to have an interview. And
Oh
then
man.
he starts crying, right? I
Uh,
think the funny thing is he starts off okay, and
uh,
then I think they ask him, how do you feel? And then you can actually see him. I think he'd rehearsed this over to okay. When they
this is the
ask me how
time.
I feel about this, I'm going to
Yeah.
cry my eyes out. It was terrible acting on his part because there were no tears. You can see him trying to force them to
Sure.
trying to force them to come through, and then they didn't. But yeah, anyways, that's the
That
National Lotteries Commission scam.
that's mad. So hold on, because I assume Lotto Pelandi it keeps building and then someone wins it or what? Like how are they getting money out of it? Like how is the money going to charities?
So like any business, right? The lottery makes more money than it loses. So let's
Okay, so the
say
excess
10
funds.
million. Yeah, let's say 10 million people in South Africa play a lotto, right?
Yeah.
And then whoever wins the jackpot per week is gets 1 million.
Okay. I see. So
Yeah,
what are
and
they
then from
actually
there
supposed to do with that money? Give it to actual charities.
they give it to charities, they invest it in communities, they take it to other initiatives, they pay salaries. It's like a proper running sort of business.
I
But
actually
then,
know someone who's involved up there at the executive level. Zambuza. Ungantilenza.
maybe they're also chowing. You never know.
Bruh, I mean, the sad part is that it's not really surprising. That's the sad part.
Mm,
But, ish. Wow. So I'm going through her Instagram. This is completely different. She
mm-hmm,
posted, and at first I kind of judged it, but I'm thinking this might slap. So it's a grilled cheese sandwich, but she's kind of turned it into a quarter. So she's added chips and a Russian between. It's looking alright.
mm-hmm.
Let's look. I won't lie to you. I just sent it to you. I just sent it to you on Instagram.
Hey, let
I
me get
kind
that
of want
open.
a look at it now.
Grilled cheese sandwich.
No, I might order one. But yeah, no. Hey, that's actually mad. No, very sad. I hope those people get the ultimate penalty, which is very doubtful that will happen in SA. When you're connected, these things tend not to happen.
You know that people pulled up her old tweets where she said, "I wish I could win the lotto."
Oh,
Bro, talk about snitching on yourself.
I mean, that's what it is, bro. Like, it's like they say that when, if you're a killer or whatever, a thief, like there's that thing in you where you just want to drop hints, like you want to leave or keep souvenirs, that type of shit. Speaking of souvenirs, have you seen season 4 of You, or do you
Yes, I
even watch?
have.
Oh, you
I
watched the
have.
whole thing?
No, I've watched the whole thing. I've watched the whole thing. Um,
Listen, she was wild. Actually, we're gonna talk about spoilers for a bit, guys. So apologies about that. What did you think?
so after watching the first part, right, I'm like, okay, these guys are going in a very weird direction.
Yeah, it
And
was
I
kind
was
of
I was
bland,
feeling
right?
I was feeling like, oh, okay, this is a bit strange. It's weird. I'm not sure how I'm feeling about it. To an extent where when part two came out, I was reluctant to watch it.
Same.
And then I was just like, ah, you know what? Let me just get on and just do this thing, right?
Yeah,
So put it on, and then it gets towards the end of it, and you're like, whoa!
bruh.
It was, it
The moment
was,
part
it
two
was,
started, by the when he again, I'll still try not to spoil things for people who are just curious. But when he so end of part one, we discover that the basic gist of it is someone is going around killing Joe's rich friends, right? That's the basic
yeah,
gist of it. And Joe's trying to find who the killer is. By the end of part one, Joe learns who the killer, in quotations, is, right? And then part two is what we thought would be, oh man, so like Joe really has to like stop this guy. Like it was very kind of like, this is not really, slapping. But then, first episode of part two comes out and it turns out, the killer is not who we all thought. The killer is someone
yeah,
else, and that immediately caught my attention because I'm like, how? Because they didn't explain how the killer was the killer,
yep,
and I was so curious as to how would they explain. Are we talking about like, is someone hallucinating? Like what? I didn't know, bro. It was mad. And then the last episode, there's another character who I did not like at all. I thought it was incredibly convenient how they were just unraveling the mystery, right? I was very, very annoyed by that character. But then they sorted it out in episode 10. I was like, no, this is fantastic. I was like, there's a song in my mind where I wanted to sing it after I had finished watching that last episode, and I was like, Unga bungi nindaba
Nindaba
sabantu.
Sabantu.
You must not. You must not.
Don't do that
Mind your
thing.
business. Mind your business, guys. That's I think what's one of the biggest themes of You season 4. Mind your damn business. And I was happy. People, it's not fair. She was a genuine person. Like, mind your business. But anyway, I think fantastic season. Although, what do you think of Netflix's part one, part two release strategy to kind of milk the audience attention? Because again, when they drop it all at once,
Yeah,
people binge and it's huge,
yeah,
but that's only about maybe 2 weeks really of social media traction. Whereas if you do two parts, they've stretched it over a month, people talking about the show. I just think it didn't work in this sense because it was so underwhelming, part one, right? That they're relying on the likes of me and you to talk and say, yo, part two was mad. Because Lami, I was with you. I was like, I saw part two was out and I was very lukewarm as to when I'm gonna make time to watch it. My wife's like, no, babe, let's
yeah.
watch it. I'm like, okay, cool, let's watch it. And the moment I watched episode one of part two, that's when I was like, oh, okay, I'm fully invested. So I feel like they lost a lot of people who were just like, what the hell is this shit? I'm not going back to it. And now they are gonna have to rely on word of mouth and hope the word of mouth spreads to those other people who jumped off. Because I'm ready for season 5. But
Yeah.
how
Do you
many
know
people did
what
they
though,
lose?
right? I think they're trying to find a balance between what some like HBO, right? HBO is still doing the old school way,
Weekly.
right? One episode per week, which is very
But then the thing is, Senna, those companies or whatever's right, studios, if they've always been doing that, that's fine. If I've always
yeah.
known Game of Thrones was once a week, right, every Sunday. We all know Succession is every Sunday, right? So it
Yeah.
works for them. Netflix tried to destroy that model by saying, "Nah, we're giving it to you
We're
all,"
giving
and
it
it
all at
worked.
once.
It worked. It worked for them, right? But then, so now
But I think
trying to do a young U-turn, I don't know if that works for Netflix.
I don't think they're trying to do a young U-turn. I think they're just trying to, as you said, just stretch out the attention span and stretch out the trend, stretch out people talking about it and whatever and releasing it in parts, right? Which I think is cool. I don't mind it. I think it works because like with Money Heist, we also watched it in parts, which was
Yeah.
great. You're watching it like fuck, I can't wait for
You
part
see,
two.
money is like you got that. To
Well,
this
it's
day, I
good,
still
dang.
haven't watched. No, I didn't. I was
Why?
bored. The first part, I was like, nah, it's not working for me. It just got really repetitive. So I remember a friend of mine saying, "But oh, she was really happy that, it ended a certain way. Like apparently it was lit." But I was like, I couldn't. Like, to this day, I still haven't watched part two.
Really?
Yeah.
Look, I enjoyed it, right? Obviously, yes, there is a repetitive sort of aspect to it, but for me, I can't help but say, no, look, I think they're trying to find that middle ground where we don't give you all at once because I can tell you, Mina, during lockdown, I could finish a series in a Puma now.
Yeah.
By tomorrow, I'm done. And it's like on to the next thing, right?
Yeah.
And then I'll then come back and say Netflix sucks. Netflix doesn't have anything new. Because I think that's kind of where we're all at the moment with that streaming platform, right? It's like
Nah,
we watch
I
it, people
don't
are like,
think. Nah, I don't feel like that. I think Netflix. The problem with Netflix is that they've got too much low quality content. It's not that they don't have anything new. The problem is the new stuff is low quality, right? And that's what they need to sort out, right? I don't think it's about whatever. Because again, I'm happy to watch an old movie. I'm good, because at least I know that the satisfaction I'm gonna get. I was watching Transformers today. I know the satisfaction I'm gonna get from Transformers. Also, side note, Transformers is underrated, man. Like apart from the last one, Transformers 5, the Night, something Night.
The Dark Knight.
No, it's not Dark Knight. That's
Last
Batman.
night, sorry.
Yes, the last night.
Last night.
That one was there's a lot to like about that fifth one, but I just think it was a horrible movie. But there's certain elements where I thought this is brilliant.
People just
But
hate
yeah,
on Michael Bay.
I think so. I think people just really just, but then there's certain problems that I've had. So I think Transformers 2 didn't really vibe with it, and Transformers 5, nah. But the other ones, 1, 3, and 4, I love them. And it's the only issue that I had
Three
was,
is Dark of the Moon, yeah?
yeah, Dark of the Moon. I was
And
watching
then
Dark of the Moon.
four is the first one with
Age
Mark
of
Wahlberg.
Extinction. Yes, where they went to China.
Okay,
The
that
second
was
half
good.
is in China. Yeah.
That was good. That was
So
good.
literally, my only issue with that franchise was Michael Bay didn't do enough to differentiate the Autobots. I knew who they were. Like at least Transformers 1, it was good. The problem was in 3 and 4 and the other ones, the Autobots didn't have enough personality. Besides Optimus and Bumblebee, there wasn't anyone else who I remember that had personality. Whereas if you look at Transformers 1, you had Optimus, you had Bumblebee, you had Ironhide,
Yeah.
you had Ratchet, you had Jazz. I think those
You
were the
can't,
five.
besides Bumblebee and Optimus, really, you can't build up relationships with any other Autobots. But
Yeah, no, I did like Ironhide. Like what? Like when the first time when they meet Sam in Transformers 1, and he points the gun at him, and then what did he say? He says something along the lines of like, do you want to fight, punk? And he's got the cannons pointed at him, and I saw personality like in all five of them when they did the interaction. I was like, oh, okay, cool, I have vibes with it. But I think Bay didn't drill deeper. So like that first one was great, but then where he went from there was no character development for the Autobots. And then where he really messed up was the Decepticons. those were just all mechanical
Generic.
monsters. Yeah, no, it didn't. It like so there was like there's a car chase in Transformers 3, on the highway where they're trying to protect Sentinel before Sentinel betrays them, and it's a bunch of Decepticons that are like hounds. They're moving like overgrown bears or tigers or whatever, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's not really who the Decepticons are, right? Why couldn't you get known Decepticons, give them a design, right? So again, all this to
Yeah.
say, I'm very very excited. There's a new Transformers movie coming out this year, but it's not with
Is it
Michael
this year?
Bay. Yeah, it's coming out this year in the summer. I think June or something like that.
Oh, nice.
And it's Autobots versus
Rise of the
the
Beasts.
the Primals. The yeah, is it Primals or Maximals? Anyway, remember Beast Wars? We used to watch on ZBC back in the day. So I really like that version of the Transformers. So it's that. It's gonna be interesting,
Okay.
and we'll see if they do better in terms of differentiate. But because I really do like the world Michael Bay built, and some of the slow mos and some like it was really dope. Like where he took Transformers was really really dope. But I think he just needed someone there to be like, okay, let's develop the story a little bit further. Let's develop the Autobots a bit further, and definitely give the Decepticons better character arcs. Because yeah,
And also,
it's yeah.
this thing of Optimus Prime only showing up at the end, like it must stop.
Yeah, no, because I mean, Optimus is almost like a Superman type figure, right? Where it's very difficult in a team movie to have Superman because Superman is indestructible, right? So you always have to come up with some dumb thing to get rid of Superman, and then that makes all the other characters more appealing. So I think that's what they kind of lack with run into with Optimus Prime, where it's like with Prime, he's big, he's strong, he's the leader. It's like you don't want to always have him because the other ones are kind of sporories at this point, right? Outside that,
Yeah.
so now they've
Because he
sent
like disappears
Optimus
for
into
the whole
space
movie.
and yay, look la loco. Yeah, it's the Superman problem with Optimus. But let's see. I will be front and center for the new Transformers movie. I love that franchise. I grew up with that franchise. Like that Transformers and Jurassic Park, I think are two of my top five franchises of all time. Where no matter
Okay.
what, I vibes with them. I vibes with
Okay.
them.
Okay. That's powerful. That's powerful. No, I'll be within for Transformers without fail. I can tell you that.
Yeah, absolutely. Fast. So what would you rate? Fast and Furious, 10, or the new Transformers movie? What are you more excited for?
I think I'm more excited for the Fast and the Furious, the last one. I want to see how they end it.
Is it definitely the last one?
I remember Vin Diesel saying there's going to be a part one and part two. That'll be interesting if they actually do that.
No. I'll be pissed if they do that, bro. I think it'll be. I'm
I
tired.
think he mentioned something about a Fast 10 part one, part two. And I think also the fact that The Rock won't be there, that's going to be.
I mean, they've
I
got
would
John
like.
Cena.
And then it becomes a WWE thing.
Yeah, I think The Rock had his own personality. He's a better like John Cena is. As an actor, he's not as great an actor as The Rock is in terms of personality. So
You know what, right? I think he's got a bit more range though. Like he can go into a comedy movie, into a silly adult comedy movie and make it work, right? He's
no, he
done a
does.
couple
No,
of
he's
those.
he's got better range. But
I
in
feel
terms
like
of this, in
I
terms
like
of
The Rock,
action
right?
star, in terms of action star, I don't think John Cena is a better action star than The Rock.
Maybe I can give you that. I can give you that. But I think I've gone. Maybe The Rock's gone a bit stale on me in terms of like Hollywood. There's a generic character that he's played.
Have you seen
Unfortunately, in
that
movies
meme where it's The Rock in his khaki, like in a khaki shirt, looking up,
and it's
and
the
it's like
movie
three
is-
different
it's-
movies.
It's three different movies, right? It's Jumanji, it's Red Notice, it's the San Andreas, and another one where I'm like, guys, and that's the thing, right? It almost like there was a period in time.
Shirt. That's what kills me, bro.
Exactly. There's a period in time over the last decade where I think he played a very generic tough guy role.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. I do, maybe as an action star, he is the biggest action star in the world right now.
What
But I
did
do
you
think
what did you think
Cena.
of him in Central Intelligence? You didn't think there was range there?
I think there was range. He was funny. He was definitely funny. Um, but I've watched a few more movies where like Cena acted in Trainwreck, he acted in another comedy. I'm like, oh, actually, he's quite funny. There's a chat to be had about Batista as an as a very good actor. Unfortunately, he complained that they don't star him in rom coms. He says he wants to do more rom coms. I'm like, hey, right, you can't spend your whole life being called the animal on the WWE, a tough guy with all these tattoos, and then all of a sudden you wanna,
You know,
I don't know, you
you're not the
wanna.
first person to say this. I don't see it with Batista, bro. Like people are saying that he's got range, but I don't know, fam. Like I haven't
Oh, he
seen it.
does.
I
He
think
does.
I rank in terms of actors, wrestlers post wrestling career.
Yeah.
Rock is at the top, and I'll put
Okay.
Cena, and then I'd put Batista as number three.
But they're the three guys who've genuinely made acting careers after WWE
Yeah, no,
or
they have,
whatever.
they really have. But I don't know, The Rock just, I mean, not The Rock, Batista, he, it just doesn't jump off the screen for me.
I think
I
he
don't
was
know.
very funny on Guardians of the Galaxy in a very dry
I think
humor way.
it was stupid humor. I don't like that type of humor. I don't like they did
Oh,
that to
I
him.
love it.
To be fair,
I love it. I think it was funny.
I'm not a fan of Guardians. I think he's, but and they didn't give him enough lines in what was that? Was it James Bond or Mission Impossible? He's in one of those two franchises. But he was just kind of like he didn't barely say anything, but he was a
But
villain.
he says it's a casting issue. So he says people have sort of typecast him as a generic tough guy, and he thinks there's more to it than that. And I think they can be. I think he can be
No, absolutely,
no a bit funny. What's
absolutely.
what's that movie? The one on Netflix,
Which
that
one?
murder mystery type thing where he's in.
Which one?
The one where he's in with Daniel Craig. This murder
Oh,
mystery.
isn't it like Knife Party, Knives Out, something like
Yes,
that?
Knives Out something.
I
Yeah,
haven't seen that
exactly.
one.
He
I need to
was
see that one.
he was funny-ish on that one. So just check it out on Netflix. He's
Yeah.
he's. I think you can see a bit of range.
Okay.
But yeah, I do think he just needs probably a bit more opportunities in a not so tough guy role.
Quick one before we wrap up. I think we have one more CSM. I'll check. And what was I gonna say? Yes. So in terms of a wedding, right? I saw a tweet talking about wedding at RSVP.
Mm-hmm.
Uguti, she was supposed to go to her friend's wedding, and she had RSVP'd, and then last minute had to cancel, didn't show up, right? And then I guess the bride, right, is who she knew, and the bride sent her account details. Uguti chief. These are my account details. Your seat costs, I don't know, let's say 700 rand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you send us the 700 rand? So it was, I think it was a case where the perpetrator was didn't like ghosted, didn't say anything in good time or something like that, just didn't go to the wedding, right?
Okay.
So in that type of scenario, do you think that the bride or the couple, the newly married couple, are in the right to ask for their money back?
No, I don't think to go as far as asking for the money back is probably a bit extreme because that's a sunk cost. It's gone, right? Malai.
But do you okay? So do you, but do you think on the guest side, should we volunteer that we want to pay for our seat, like pay them back?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
fair enough.
Because ultimately, like a lot goes into planning a wedding, a lot goes into preparing a guest list. A lot of these venues will say Uguti per head is 200 rand,
Yeah.
or per head it's 300 rand, or per head it's 500 rand, right? That's per person that RSVPs to your wedding that you're feeding. And it's not like that money is coming back, right? So there is an element of, a look, let's soften the blow for you, because ultimately there's a cost incurred by that person to reserve a seat for you. And maybe Tologuti, there's someone else Futi who wanted to come, but because you said you're coming, all of a sudden they were excluded. They didn't make the cut, because sometimes that happens with weddings. You just end up not making the shortlist.
Yeah.
But now, as person who has been, who's got a paid for seat and meal, offer like, hey, no, sorry, I can't make it, but
Yeah.
nako okuncane.
Yeah, I think you should definitely, if you're a wedding guest and you RSVP'd and you couldn't make it, as someone who has sunk those costs, I don't know if I would accept the money back, but I think it's definitely something that would it's
Offer something.
important.
I think
It's
it's good
important
to offer.
to if I couldn't make it, if I was like, okay, Senna's getting married and whatever reason I couldn't make it, and I've RSVPs or Senna has, because the thing is, for every person you invited, you didn't invite someone else, right? Who wanted to come. So obviously it's not your fault that you can't come and whatever, but you've essentially committed to coming to the wedding. And it's like we're counting you as someone who knows, who's seen their calendar, and but life does happen and shit like that. We understand. But I do think that, yeah, let's make it a habit that if you don't show up, hey, okay, how much was my seat? Can I just contribute, or use this money imali for my seat as ukukunga, right? And if you wanna make it more palatable or something like that, I think that is important. But like just not showing up, I think that is disrespectful, and just being like, oh yeah, no, I couldn't make it. Like, dude, it's until you actually plan a wedding. I think a lot of, because I used to kind of feel like, it is what it is. Like, weddings aren't that big a deal. I planned a wedding, and I see the amount of coordination, finances, and just just organization it takes to plan a successful wedding is a lot. So a lot of people will be feeling some type of way if you just don't show up, because it's as if Senna puts in a lot of effort, right, to make a wedding which his friends and family would want to attend, and if you don't attend, it's almost like a slap in the face. Where it's like, bruh, like, so manji, what's the wedding for, right? So I do think, yeah, I think people should have a culture of wanting to always try to financially assist if you're not going to come to the wedding, and you said
Yes.
you were going to come.
Like, just to be like, hey guys, sorry.
Yeah, yeah, gotta take it. But hey, so if do you have access to our DMs? I think it's the latest one.
Hi guys, Yazama is the part of the podcast where, what do we do, Mr. Maps? Where you guys can send us your burning questions, and then we will try to respond to them.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, anyways, let's go.
Anonymously.
Anonymously. This person says, hi guys, please keep my name anon, of course. Oh, but of course there is a roster. How? Okay. You got multiple subscription packages. Then we got niggas for different things. Ha. So this isn't probably in relation
In
to.
response to, I think I said, remember we were talking about I think that's season from last week where I mentioned that
Yeah.
hands have rosters, like dudes that are
Okay.
for specific purposes.
Yes, 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 yes. So of course there is a roster. You've got multiple subscription packages. Then we've got niggas for different things. We just like, oh, she just likes breadcrumbing this guy because he probably is her Good Morning Beautiful sub. First guy was in the running for DSTV Supersport package, but it didn't work out. That's all. Okay, so I think if you go back next week, that's the girl who had the two guys.
Yeah,
And then obviously she went and stayed at the one, but then not
yeah.
didn't or what she
Didn't
cuddled
finish,
him,
and then went to the other guy, and yeah, nothing
then
happened.
went to the other guy. Yeah, so and you'll be classified. You'll be under different packages and categories.
Hi, women are not good people. We learn that every day. Yeah, we learn that every day. That's all I can say. Right.
So apparently also one more DM from last week. Last
Okay.
week, yeah, you actually made this remark as we were recording.
Oh, okay.
What a, I think we finished speaking about the Zim hospitals, and you're like, yo, what a depressing. I don't know what was going on last week, but yeah. We had a DM from one of our listeners who says, let's try pick one positive thing that we could chat about to improve Zim. You come up with a suggestion. I'll come with. I think that's something that we can word into a couple of our episodes going forward. We can even start today if you're keen. But pick one thing a week that will improve Zim,
Change the
Mr.
government.
Maps.
It's very
That'll be a
simple. That
first.
one. It's very simple. That thing.
I'll have one. It's a bit of a light-hearted one.
Okay.
Remove jingles from advertising.
What do you mean jingles?
Like, have you ever seen adverts in Zim?
Mm.
You need to chat to Pipsy about this. He is very well versed in the marketing arena in Zim, right? So I don't know. Whenever someone rolls out a new internet service provider or a new petrol station, there must be a jingle and people dancing and a song and
Okay.
whatever to advertise just about anything. So I would say that's the first thing. Let's get rid of jingles and let's get creative with how we advertise stuff.
There was a Chibuku jingle I remember on ZPC, right? Crap, I forgot how it
Those
used to
Chipuko
go.
ads used to slap.
I forgot how it used to go. But I know Flavor Ravers also had one. Ceravita had the good morning, Nestle
Nestle
Ceravita.
Cerevita. Exactly. So back then you had to have a tune of some sort, right? But marketing's moved away from that model. And I think we're now everyone's looking for something that can trend and be creative and be edgy. There's this one ad that I saw on Twitter the other day where all these guys went and got names of, so it's a cereal manufacturer, right? So the cereal manufacturer went and got names of famous people, but ordinary people, right? So ordinary people with famous people's names. So they went and got a Dwayne Johnson, a Serena Williams, and whoever, and then they got them on video to say that this is their favorite cereal. And they're like, Dwayne Johnson says this is their favorite cereal. Obviously, without getting the real Dwayne Johnson or the real
Oh yeah, I
Serena
saw that
Williams.
on Twitter. That's funny.
So that's one thing
Funny.
I think we can use to improve. That's one thing we can improve in Zim.
Wait, so hold on. If my name is actually Dwayne Johnson and I endorse a cereal, right? So like my face is on the cereal, like you're seeing the ads, it's me, right? And people are putting it out there on, so the product is like Dwayne Johnson endorses, Rice Krispies or whatever. Can the other,
Yes.
because I can't say the real, but the other Dwayne Johnson, the much more famous Dwayne Johnson, can he sue?
Technically, he can. He can. It's a weird little loophole that you could probably get away with. So he can try and sue on the basis that no, the only reason you guys picked this name is because
I'm
it's
famous.
linked to a famous celebrity,
Yeah.
and because of that, then yeah, blah blah blah. But then if you guys went and say no, we got a random Dwayne Johnson to say blah blah blah, it's you can get away with using the name
Okay.
just because you're
That's
not
brilliant.
wrong
Yeah.
in
You're
theory,
not
right?
lying.
Yeah, you're not lying.
Yeah.
But obviously, if there's another, how can I put it? It's another name of someone who's like Adam Johnson, right?
Yeah.
And let's say there's an Adam Johnson who's famous, but there isn't one that you found who isn't, and you just hope Puguti it will just work out. You'll just say it's a common name.
Yeah.
That won't work. Like there has to be an element of fact to what you're saying.
Okay. Noted. Noted. Hey, this is a long item. Let's see what it says. This one says, "Hi, Ebo comrade. Hello, hi.
Hello.
Twan. Okay, so Saka, me and this guy started a relationship in my city. But as soon as we got together, I had to travel out the country, and I was gone over 3 months. But we kept the love alive.
This is at the beginning of the relationship.
I'm assuming.
Okay.
I see now you likely said where I was reading. We kept the love alive, right? Countdown to my return and countdown to my return and everything. This is the problem with these long things. You look at something and then you have to reread the whole thing. Fast forward, I'm back in the country for the first 2 weeks, and everything is cute, y'all. We're doing things that lovers do. Then the guy starts moving mad. He's standing me up and doing all these jerk things. Then he goes completely ghost. I'm hurt. I cry and everything. But, I make up a deal. I heal because I'm a baddie. Fast forward, and I start bumping into this guy everywhere. It's literally as if he's coming to my usual hangout spots and everything. Every time someone is trying to get with me, he's cock blocking. Like, bruv. Now he's back in my DM talking about how much he loves me and I belong to him. That's very, very creepy. At some point, we were, you can say, fuck buddies.
What?
Hey, forgot about Koba Bagit. So it's at some point you can say we were fuck buddies, but I fast got over it because I wasn't within the shits. I wasn't with the shits anymore. This guy this guy's even introducing me to his girlfriends now. They like me and everything, and every single girl,
As a what? As a friend?
I think so. I think as a friend.
Hectic.
And every single girl he gets with, I have to meet her. This man will not leave me alone, but he's the one who moved on. I block him everywhere, and he gets the new numbers. Or he gets new numbers, finds a way to contact me. One time at Groove, one of his exes even came to me and asked what went down between me and him, because throughout the entire relationship, he would never shut up about me. She said, please release this man from your hold. And I'm confusion. Why the fuck would this man love me? Or rather, why would this man move like that and then turn around and leave me alone? What is he doing?
What do you mean by turn around and leave me alone? He's clearly in love with her and obsessed with her.
But then why did he ghost her in the first place?
I don't know. Maybe at the time you had something else happening.
That's the most fuckboy thing to say, son.
I'm just saying, like, maybe at the time he just wasn't. No, maybe at the time he wasn't keen, right? Now he's keen. There's that whole thing that people do where they like someone who doesn't want them, but at the time someone wants you, they're somewhat unattractive to you, whatever it is, right? Which is a very weird sort of logic.
Or maybe it's like maybe you are saying this, like Uguti, you're in love with the idea of the person, and then once you actually get them, it was kind of I don't really like this. But again, it's the idea.
Maybe you still want the door open.
Yeah, wanting to chase. Maybe he was in love. However it happened, the whole. You know how it is with these like long distance things where you're in a certain country, she's in another country, or like she's in Zim, for example, you're in uni, and it's just kind of you just keeping things warm via text, right? Text and calls and whatever, long distance, and then eventually, so you fall in love for the majority of your academic year, you're apart, right? And then in the summer holiday times when you actually go home, so the bulk of the time it's you and your imagination thinking how the relationship is in person, and then you get there and it's like it's actually nicer in my head, but
then why would he come back, right?
Because maybe like when you leave, right, so like let's say you come for the holidays and then you ghost the hand and then you go back to school, it's that same idea that you are in love with. It's not the person, it's not the reality. You are still in love with the idea. Yabo. So that's why you keep fantasizing and you can't leave the hand alone, because in your mind, she's the perfect partner. But then in reality, like you just when you want to stay in Fantasyland, that's the only thing that I can come up with, because again it makes no sense that after you ghost a heart, because typically, if I've ghosted, it's like,
Or
that's it, right? What
or
that?
you think Uguti where you're going is better, and then you actually find out Uguti though, hey, actually it's not better here, I must go back.
Yeah, actually, that's a much simpler
That does
solution.
happen, I guess, for some people.
That is true. That is true. I guess the listener now needs to, get back with the dude. Let's see what happens, because we need to know what the, what the actual issue was. So if he goes to you the second time, come back and tell us, and then at least we know Uguti, he's in love with the idea of you. But then if you stay together and you guys fall in love again, then we know, he thought the grass was greener on the other side, but it really wasn't. That you are a baddie, you are the shit. But we kind of need you to go back for the podcast and for the listeners.
Community service.
Do us a solid, because now you've started us on a journey. We need to know. We need to know. But yeah, that's it. That's it from my side, Mr. Moy.
No, we give thanks. We give thanks. I don't have further to add except to Uguti. Next week that person must come back.
Oh,
with
actually,
further feedback.
real quick. I keep saying real quick before we leave, but for real, so it's good. You put something on your item order that was interesting. That thread, men shutting down when stressed.
That thing killed me, dog.
I saw a few of those. Yeah, no, guys are
That
really.
thing. Do you know what it is, right? And the tweet, if I can find it, for people who aren't on Twitter and who didn't see it. So it goes, men are so disgustingly mean when they're going through shit. Make you not even want to be there for them, right? And then this one guy is like, and this is the one that killed me. It's like, a woman will see me switching off a geyser 3 times a day and then ask me to take her to Tasha.
Like, do you not understand? I'm in financial trouble.
Like, ma'am, they're gonna switch off my electricity.
Right.
And then you'll be down to your last 30 pence. Football club taking back-to-back L's, hairline receding due to stress, and they'll be talking about your replies have been off lately. Like, of course they are. But you know what this is, right? Let me look for another one whilst I try and summarize what I think this is. This is a typical issue of one, maybe men not communicating well. So men maybe not communicating to women with, hey, this is happening, gunzima, I'm going through this and this, I'm going through tough times, I'm going through a lot, and so forth, right? And then I think there is an element where perhaps significant other maybe isn't aware. I think it might be a bit twofold, right? So it's like, okay, cool, when you're not communicating well as a guy and saying this is the mental state that you're in,
Yeah.
and then the other person maybe just timing yacho to be like, okay, maybe I shouldn't say let's go to Tasha's when my man is switching off the geyser 3 times.
So I'm looking at one that just popped up now. So this guy goes, the last season Arsenal finished 8th. She asked me why I just don't support another team. My head was so hot, I was stuttering. And then someone in the comments is like, brother, are y'all still together? Someone says she's my wife.
But I mean, women do
wife shit to say, bro. Like, it's like you don't understand.
There's a day I was stressed about watching a game. Why don't you watch the highlight?
It's like, bro, you don't understand. So this
and my sister always says that, actually, like, why don't you just watch the highlights? I'm like, bro,
it's not the same,
bro.
It's not the same, bro. Like, highlights are boring. Like, it's just no, fam. It just doesn't work. And then, so this person says, I remember when I was very angry because I couldn't debug this code for almost 6 hours, just to get a call from her and hear I want to be babied. The anger in my heart at that time. You know what?
Seething.
My wife actually does this shit where she'll call me at work or something, and like I'm within the graft, dog. I'm within, like, and maybe I'm like I've just got out of a meeting. I'm pissed, right? And I'm annoyed. Things are just not lining up. And then she'll call me, and she's like, why aren't you happy to hear from me? And I'm like, nigga, like, and it's like I have to catch myself because obviously you don't know what's going on in the office, right? But internally, oh man, like a bomb just went off inside me. It's just wow, and it's like the timing is impeccable of when you decide to call, and she's being super playful. Hey, baby, how's your day going? You know what I mean? And it's just at that point, I'm not trying to talk about my day, right? But the problem is you can't outright be like, hey, bro, me, I'm going through it. I'll talk to you later, because then you're gonna have to deal with the ramifications of those consequences when you get home. Yeah, well, so now your day's been ruined, and now you've just ruined your night as well. So you have to play along and just be like, hey,
Yeah.
I need to work through the conversation because I want to get home and I want to be,
Yeah.
in a good mood. I actually want to talk and shit like that. But like, it's so funny the moments they pick to just say
Yeah.
certain things that will just set you off. And it's like, why don't my boys do this? You know what I mean? Like, I can't remember a moment where a friend of mine just pissed me off, like something like
But
that.
it might be that your friends lack a bit more, I don't know, concern at times.
Maybe.
Whereas women will always just be on your case about little things. Guys are unlikely to be that. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
They're unlikely to pester you about this and this and that. There's a chat to be had about Witty. Maybe if you spent as much time with your homies as you would with your girlfriend, at some point, they would get on your nerves. There's one that I saw. I'm not sure if you remember this guy's thread about. I think he once made a thread about his car accident, which left him in a wheelchair. He says it was just 2 days after I'd gotten out of the HDU after my accident, and she was shouting at me about cheating. They had me on oxygen. I don't know why. I haven't even finished up.
All right, finish. This is mad.
They had me on oxygen, and I had a feeding tube up my nose. Women never read the room when you're going through shit. I can't believe I was fighting for my life and fighting charges too.
Oh my
The worst thing
god.
is, I was only allowed 2 visitors at a time. So my mom was right there and she read me my alleged charges. I looked right at Mama asking for help, and she looked away and started kungorongeza.
What does that mean?
Yo. Okay, cool. Hey, guys, me
Doesn't
reading Shona, hey.
rongeta mean like sinuses?
Rongeza mabanana pamsoro pe cupboard. Oh, ngizohlanganisa amabanana on top of the cupboard. Yeah, I hope I read that right. I was tempted to play dead. That's the end of it.
That's so dark. Oh my god. Yeah, but yeah, no, that's wild. That is actually wild.
But to be honest, I think I do think a lot of those quotes probably veered off the original tweet slightly, because I do think what this woman was saying was men are mean when they're going through stuff, make you not even want to be there for them. I think her thing was, oh, I'm trying to be there for you, but you're pushing me away or you're being mean.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it comes down to, we can have another conversation about this maybe on a separate day ngoba selasikhathi lamuhla,
Yeah.
about how is probably the issue is being vulnerable as a guy may be seen as a sign of weakness. So for you to then come and say, oh, baby, I'm struggling financially, it can come across as, I'm a broke nigga, I'm a broke boy. She
Yeah.
might think Uguti, I can't look after or whatever it is, right? And then that might just make you, when she now asks you to take her to Tasha's, react in a very in a very negative sort of way, which maybe isn't like the intention, but that might be a chat we can have about how guys sort of shut down when it's now tough times.
No. I mean, yeah, it's part of the mental health conversation. I think I'm really guilty of this a lot of the time. Where it's just, I think there's a certain level of just being taught to keep things inside, and yeah, I've been through moments where I was in the pits and feel like I was just sweet, because I'm like, eventually this shit will figure itself out. Which is not a good way to go about it. So yeah, I do understand. Like it's because again, you can't pop off, right? You can't pop off with someone because that's wrong. Like they don't know, right?
Yeah.
So you can't really. I don't think it makes sense to I don't know. It's complicated, but I think it's definitely something that deserves a conversation on its own.
The one time we're growing up, the one thing I heard a lot was indoda ikhali yaqinisela.
Yeah.
I mean, I think every Ndebele boy was told that by their father, uncle, sibling, whatever, right? Translation, if you don't speak Ndebele, indoda ikhali yaqinisela translates to a man doesn't cry.
The man don't cow.
The man doesn't cry. He holds on. He acts strong. He acts tough. He keeps moving.
We move, fam.
We move. But yeah, it is a chat, because I do think a lot of guys listening to this are guilty of just not communicating with their partners.
Try imagine you've hit rock bottom fighting for your life and she asks you, what do you like about her? Yeah, nah, man. This shit is actually hilarious. But I know for a fact where there's a time where I thought my wife was trolling me, although she genuinely knew. Hey, bro, there was a time we got smacked, maybe by, I think it was the loss against Brighton, and then she genuinely didn't know the score, and she was like, "Oh, so what was the score today?" And she never asked me what the score was. She never asks. Like, really, out of 20 games, she'll ask about one. And in my mind, I'm like, fam, are you taking the piss? Like, no, I'm actually in. That's when I had to sit down and be like, football actually, messes with me on an emotional level, because the rage that I had in that moment, I was like, I sat back and I was like, why was I that angry? You know what I mean? Like, it's just it literally. And the problem is also the smile, the look she has on her face. It's genuine on her side. To me, from my point of view, it looks like the sarcastic one.
Don't you know what I'm going through?
Bruh. Yo.
And you have the audacity to smile.
Listen. I don't even know what I said. I probably maybe even ignored the question or something. But I couldn't deal, fam. I literally couldn't deal. We can't lose to teams like Brighton. Like, it didn't make this before Brighton, looked like they were gonna have a semi-decent season, right? It was just kind of, Brighton has won a few games, and next thing Arsenal's getting weaved, and anyway. Right. I see you before my book goes up. In the meantime, Lakers are winning. We good. So I'm in a good place mentally, guys. Please don't worry about me.
Guys, please don't take out your team's losses and whatever frustrations on your woman. She doesn't know.
Yeah, no, she doesn't.
She really doesn't know. The one thing that whenever we go out with my person, we get to a restaurant and there's a TV. I think she always makes it about, did you book this because there's a TV and you can watch the game? Nah.
Even when we go to sports bars with my wife and stuff like that, she intentionally, if she sees TVs, she'll intentionally make me sit where I can't see the TV. So she is looking at the TV and I've got my back to the TV. I feel like that's torture.
I must watch it. Because now I'm gonna be twisting my neck and all these. Nah. Yeah. Now I'm gonna be going up to the bathroom just so I can catch a glimpse of the score.
Bruh.
No, guys.
Now I have to keep ordering. Babe. Yeah. This is like my third item. I keep having to go to the Anyway, hi, Mr. Moore. It's been a good one. Meant to wrap up 40 minutes ago, but it is what it is. Guys, we hope you enjoyed it. Like the ting, retweet the ting, subscribe to the ting, and if you don't, we're inclined to believe you is a hater. Mr. Moore.
Laters.